Hey, here we are, Sports Bit Live, Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, SBR picks Monday, May 21st. Can we get a competitive game here in the conference finals? We'll kick around game 4 with the Celtics and the Cavs. AFC North today, Baltimore Ravens up in the team previews. And we'll turn the shot clock on regarding some interesting comments from Larry Nance. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Here it is. The disaster scenario for sports books here in Las Vegas. It'll be the worst future ever. The Knights win yesterday. They go to the Stanley Cup Finals in their first year. 500-1 at the Westgate. 13 tickets at 500-1. Prices range from $10 to $60. Doug Kazarian, ESPN, at Doug ESPN on Twitter. Some of the biggest tickets all over town. Westgate, $400 at 300-1. CG Technology, $500 at 200-1. Look what these pay. South Point, $400 at 150-1. Golden Nugget, $250 at 200-1. William Hill, $1,000 at 50-1. They also have a $7,000 ticket that pays to risk $7,000 and win $4,600 or $49,000, excuse me. And there were some other big tickets as well. You've already had the division. Now you get the conference. Next up, the Stanley Cup, Teddy. And Johnny Avello at the win says it'll be a $5 to $10 million loss for the books in the state if they win it all.
Sure. And when we think about the really bad hits that the sports have taken, I think of a couple of Super Bowls, the Giants beating the Patriots when, there was a ton of money on the Giants. And that was a disaster for sports books in town. I think about the Rams winning the Super Bowl when they were opened at 200-1 and then slowly bet down and finally winning the Super Bowl. The Golden Knights, should they win their next series, and again, they'll be dogs against Tampa, they'll be favored against Washington, but should they win the Stanley Cup, the liability for the sports books in town will dwarf what we've seen before. And if you note the Kazarian tweet, those are the big books. Those are the books that cater to everybody, the wise guys. The local books aren't on there. The coasts and the stations and all the $10 tickets and $20 tickets that those books have. I know William Hill has 7 figures of liability. I'm convinced that the stations and coast books have similar liabilities. It's going to be a debacle in town if the Golden Knights win. And meanwhile, Las Vegas has gone frickin' hockey crazy, Pauly. It's insane
Bananas
to see how the Golden Knights have taken over this town. Vegas loves a winner, and they've got one with their hockey team.
Ratings are crazy. TV ratings, locally and national ratings. Highest ratings in NBC history, non-Blackhawk games. And every casino's got a party, viewing party as well, with food and drink specials and jersey giveaways. I'm glad William Hill threw a number out there. It's a $2 million loss at William Hill. And you ask other directors and they won't give you an answer. So at least William Hill said, yes, we blew $2 million. Although it's no big deal because it's such a great story. And bad bet, the Jets, 135 up to 160. Some of the comments coming out of their locker room were absurd. That they were the better team. The Knights were lucky. They were, stars were aligning. You lost 4 in a row and never led, okay? It's a best out of 7. This isn't a one game like March Madness. The better team won, and they played a bad first period in game 1 on the road. Other than that, they took it to you. And the Knights went 12-3 so far in the playoffs. That's the best record entering the Cup since the Kings in 2012.
I mean, this team's special. And the thing that, I was stunned. Okay, Winnipeg loses a crusher, and now they're going home where they haven't had that much home ice edge. All their success has been on the road. I was stunned to see the money coming on Winnipeg for game 5. And obviously, those were bad bets as Vegas comes away with a Western Conference title.
You're right. 32-7-2 during the regular season. Lost 4 of their final 5 playoff games at home. And for the first time all season, they lost 4 games in a row as the Knights took them out with the gentleman's sweep. Here's a vicious beat. The Marlins, plus 175 down to 150. They lost 10-9. They led 9-4 in the bottom of the 9th. They were 1 strike away. They couldn't get it done, but they spit up a 9-4 lead in the bottom of the 9th. Brutal, Teddy. Braves loving life, win a big win, and they're in first place still.
Yeah, this one's moose worthy. If you got especially if you got the best of the number, you got a plus 175 ticket in your pocket, and you have a 9-4 lead in the 9th inning. You're supposed to cash those, and when you don't, it's a gut punch. But we've talked about this Braves team. as, one of the teams that started out hot and has staying power. Atlanta's real. They've shown it, and they showed it again yesterday with that impressive come-from-behind win. Bad beat for the Marlins backers, however.
Saturday was tough. It was a bad bet and a tough beat. Boston-Cleveland total 204.5 to 208. It fell 202. 7 points in the final 3:44 of garbage time. And you get all those points. You get 116 points out of the Cavs. Still can't cash the ticket. And then Boston shooting a three every possession down, and they can't make anything.
Yeah, the last 3 minutes of that game, for anyone that had an over ticket in their pocket, were just excruciating. You talked about 7 points over the last 3:44. I think there was 3 points over the last 250 of that game. Just jacking up bad, but then they're all on free throws. Jacking up a bad shot on this end, jacking up a bad shot on that end. And the blowouts, you don't tend to, it happens sometimes. There is a fair bit of randomness, but you don't tend to see the scoring completely die at the end. Cavs go 50% from on the arc, 17 to 34. Wasn't enough to get the game over the total. That was a good result for the house. That total got steamed up, 204.5 up to 208.
$100,000 bet at the MGM here in Vegas on the Rockets. Oh, boy. They lose by 40. What the hell's going on here? 108 to 83, 119, 106, 107, 94, 127, 105, 116 to 86. And then this shit show last night. Every game's been decided by double digits in the conference finals. And this tweet from ESPN Stats and Info, the last 2 years in the conference final, we've had 5 games decided by 30 points or more, and only 2 by single digits.
Well, we'll talk about Game 4 of the Cavs-Celtics later in the show. But certainly we talk about Golden State taking care of business. What they covered? They covered by 33.5 points. They were steamed up and still got covered by 33.5. The under cashes by 15.5 points in Game 3. Houston was terrible. They shot 40% from the floor. They committed 20 turnovers. They didn't get any stops on defense. The Golden State had open shooters. Mike D'Antoni. It's just one thing led to another. Played soft, actually. You can't do that with these guys. These guys are good. I don't know if D'Antoni calling his team soft at this stage of the campaign is going to be a good motivator. I worry about the Rockets moving forward. And note the line change between Games 3 and Games 4. Golden State starting to get a little bit of respect from the betting markets.
And for the books, baseball. Look at this. Dodgers won 5 out of 6 now and swept the Nats. Plus 130 down to 115. They won 7-2. Red Sox, $2 up to 230. Shut out the Orioles, who are now 4-19 on the road. How about this? The Orioles had 13 hits and didn't score. Most hits allowed by Boston in a shutout since 1908. Yeah, that's impossible. 13 hits and no runs. And the Angels, $1.85 up to 210. Ohtani, 7 2/3, 9 strikeouts. They win 5-2. Orioles 6-1 in his starts. Or excuse me, Angels 6-1 in his starts.
Sure. Let's start with the Dodgers, who all of a sudden showing a little bit of bet on. If you had them this weekend, you made a whole bunch of money. They won 5 out of 6 against the Nats. But LA starting to hit. Got a couple of key bats. And this Dodgers team that was the biggest bet against in all of baseball for the first 6 weeks of the campaign, they're making money for their backers right now. Worth considering. Baltimore's 4-19 on the road. No surprise. The Red Sox got steamed up in that one. And Ohtani, 110 pitches yesterday. Worth noting. That's his longest outing of the season. There's 6-1 in his starts so far. But it's definitely worth noting he was stretched out for 110 here. That could affect him his next time on the Hill. Like the show? Help us keep the lights on. Please make sure to comment, share, and subscribe to all the Sportsbook Review videos. Thanks so much. Best of luck. Enjoy the game.